Quiet on the set. Hi, we're crack of dawn here in Nevada. I'm going to tie a woolly bugger. There's so many different ways of making woolly buggers, and they're probably one of the most effective flies for everything from trout to striped bass to bluefin trevally and just about everything you can think of. So the key to woolly buggers is using a good hook. I like these best, even if I'm using in fishing in salt water. I use these long shank freshwater hooks. Tiemco makes them. They're very, very sharp, chemically sharpened, and it's a long hook, easy to work with. And come in different sizes. I think this is a size 4, these are size 6. That's an 8, this is a 6. So I'm probably going to tie one on a size 6 hook. And we'll put this in the vise. So there it is. And the most important thing when you're starting a woolly bugger is that it's going to get anchored down there firmly. So we're going to put a little dab of super glue on the shank of the hook, right down the shank of the hook. And then start the thread. This gives it a firm anchoring. Once that super glue dries, I'm going to attach these bead heads in a minute. And this they won't spin around. And that's one thing that bothers me when I buy store-bought flies is that the bead heads spin around. These are going to stay put. I'm using large size black sink chain eyes, like that. Figure 8 it on there. After a few figure 8s, I'm going to add another drop of super glue. So this is all going to go hard as a rock, and those eyes are not going to move around. Figure 8, back and forth, and then tighten up a little bit on the back side, and then bring your thread right down to the back of the fly, right in here somewhere. And then I'm going to attach something for a little bit of a tail. There'll be all sorts of stuff you can put on there. Maybe I'll just put a little bit of this gold, a little bit of gold crystal flash. I like a little small, little short bunch of crystal flash just here because it helps to keep the marabou from tangling around the hook. Just a little short bit like that splays out. And then some black marabou. I usually look for the whole feather, but sometimes I use parts of the feather. I'll just attach that on top of there. And I got the tail with a little bit of gold flashabou underneath, or you can have red flashabou, whatever you want. Got a black tail. I'm just going to add a couple of pieces of crystal flash. Don't need too much. I just want a few strands in the tail on the sides. So I'm going to put it on the side of the tail here, tie it down, and then bring those bits around to the other side and tie it down. So I have a little equal little side bars of crystal flash. And then the classic way of doing this is I might just tie this off because I forgot to do something. I'm just going to tie this off real quick. And I'm going to leave a thread hanging because I want to use that thread to help support the hackle. I'm going to palmer a hackle up, and often when you palmer a hackle up, as you're using the fly, the teeth of a fish will wreck it. So I've got a little extra thread there. We don't need that thread, but one's enough. We got a little long thread here hanging. This is a long saddle hackle. I'm going to just tie it in at the tip, and I'm going to use it to palmer it up. But I've got that thread at the back hanging there to kind of help support this hackle. So I'm going to tie this hackle in at the tip. And then I'm going to tie in my crystal flash chenille. Woolly bugger crystal flash chenille. Tie it in there. Make sure you tie it down good. I like to make my flies so they don't come apart. So I do a little extra lashing down. Make sure it's tied good. Now I'm going to bring this chenille up to the front. This is kind of a large size chenille. Black. Caught our little thread here by accident. right to the front of the hook. Tie it off. And cut it. And then I'm going to take my hackle and I'm going to spin it around on this thread. Just wind it around the thread a little bit. Let's do them both together. The thread and the hackle. And then you get a little bristly effect. So that's one way of making a woolly bugger. Tie it off. And hopefully that'll hold together through a number of good fish. I don't bother with whip finishes on this. I just do a couple of half hitches, 3 or 4 half hitches behind the head, and it's done. Fast fly to tie, great fly to fish. So this is pretty heavily weighted. I could use the bead chain eyes, and or I could just put lead wire on the shank of the hook, and I could have lightly weighted ones or heavily weighted ones. It just depends on where you want to fish and how you want to fish them. But I do real well with these sink chain eye ones. They have a buggy look, and usually they ride hook up too. So when they get wet, the tail goes back and looks very fishy in the water, has a lot of movement. So that's one woolly bugger, black one. And the black woolly bugger is deadly. And that's what we used at Pyramid Lake, Nevada. And we also fished secret spots like Bleep Lake and Bleep Pond. And we caught lots of big rainbow trout in Nevada. You wouldn't believe it. 25-inch rainbows here. So get busy on your vise and make some woolly buggers.
Walk the plank.